Come here to me from Crete, to your holy temple where your lovely grove of apples stand, where the altars smoke with frankincense. Here cold water sounds through apple branches. The ground is all carpeted with roses. Enchanted sleep falls from shimmering leaves. Here the horse-graced field is lush with spring flowers, and the winds sweetly blow. Here, Cyprian goddess, you grasp the golden cup so gracefully, pouring like wine the nectar, all mixed with our rejoicing. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Aphrodisia. The opening sentence is a fragment from Sappho, the most famous ancient priestess of Aphrodite. She was an amazing woman of wisdom, knowledge, elegance, beauty. And I believe this sentence, this quote by Sappho, is the quintessence of Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality I teach. The title of today's episode is Live a Life of Pleasure, Beauty, and Sacredness with Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality. But what is Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality? It is an ensemble of memories, of celebrations, of sacred practices, of beliefs, of narrations, all gathered in a frame sense, which are the Aphroditic values. But what does it mean to live ecstatically? Let's go step by step to go deeper and deeper into today's theme. Live a life of ecstasy, pleasure, beauty, and sacredness can be resumed in ecstatic living, no? With Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. Let's start from what pleasure, beauty, and sacredness express, which is an ecstatic living. What is ecstatic living? Living ecstatically means to live in fusion, which is different from confusion, with everything that is, with all the creation, with everything that is an expression of the cosmic mother of creation and regeneration. In harmony, so no dichotomy, no opposition, but a fusion in which everyone can be what it is, and yet we can perceive, we harmoniously dance, and we are part of something bigger. Philosophy. What is philosophy? I believe that before talking about philosophy, we should talk about the Sophia, which is the root of the world. I believe that before of talking about philosophy, we should talk about Sophia, which is the pre-patriarchal philosophy, we could say. In a beautiful book entitled The Sources of Philosophy Are Feminine, the German philosopher Ingrid Strobe, she talks about how before the patriarchal philosophy, women were the keepers of knowledge, of wisdom. And this was Sophia, ancient women wisdom. This process of stealing of all the ancient women's wisdom and knowledge is highly documented by Max Dashu in her website. What happened is that women's knowledge was stolen by men, and it started being reserved to male hierarchy. So the access to this knowledge that was the heritage of women was prohibited to women themselves. Philosophy is a vision, a narration, or better, a narration. So the narration that then influences our actions in everyday life and in a community. It's an omniscience, omniscience. So a science of everything. In fact, if we consider one of the most amazing philosophers of the past, which was Hypatia, she was a philosopher, a mathematician, a physician, an astronomer. She was a scientist, and she dealt with spirituality, with arts, with ethic, everything. She was a woman of knowledge, a woman of Sophia. Then let's go further. What is spirituality? Spirituality is very different from religion. And that is why I use the term spirituality when I describe the tradition I founded here at the Temple of the Great Goddess of Rome, which is Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. Spirituality is everything that regards spirit and sacredness, but we should not make the mistake of detaching spirit from matter. Indeed, spirit is interweaved with everything that is in Mother Earth, everything that is in the cosmos. Spirit and matter are interweaved, not detachable. They are one thing. It's just our human habit and human limits to detach spirit from matters. It's just like atoms are made of matter and energy. Let's go further. What does it mean, Aphroditic? Aphroditic is everything that regards the body, the matter, the spirit, the harmonious dance of polarities, everything that regards love, care, pleasure, sacred sexuality, beauty, harmony. Indeed, harmony is one of Aphrodite's emanations, and in some of the versions of her myth, it's her daughter. So it's an emanation of Aphrodite. And when I speak of beauty, I speak of not superficial beauty, but that beauty that changes the hearts, the beauty that moves the hearts, that asks to the soul to expand. It's that beauty that moves us to spread and radiate that beauty into the world. Indeed, Aphrodite, among her epithets, has in her Latin version Venus Verticordia, which means she who changes the hearts, or Aphrodite Epistrophia, she who changes everything into love. And I write about it profusely in my book, Aphrodite Unveiled, Introduction to the Great Goddess Mysteries, which for now is just in Italian, but if you want, you can order it on the Amazon and try read it in Italian because there are a lot of images of historical findings and it's really, really a precious book. So let's go deeper and deeper to explore the question of today's episode. How can I live a life of ecstasy, a life of pleasure, beauty, and sacredness through Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality? Now we have explored all the terms that can help us having a good comprehension of today's episode. Let's have a look on what are the values of Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. First value, care. When I talk about care, we don't have to think about the care as in patriarchy we've taught to think about it. It's not care of one person that takes care of everybody else, which usually is the mother. In fact, in our society, the majority of patriarchal states build their fortune, their economy on the exploiting of mother's work, which is not paid, ridiculized, and unrecognized, underestimated. No, I'm talking about mutual circular care. Everybody, independently of the gender, takes care of everybody else. Second value of Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, peace, which doesn't mean no conflict at all, but it means always having at heart the peaceful resolution of every conflict. So, no violent conflicts at all. So, we work in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality a lot with non violent communication and with the training, daily training of empathy, which I think should be taught at schools. Third value, attention to the needs, other people's needs and our own needs. We live in a society that does to us continuous gaslighting since we are born. So there is a huge confusion about the consciousness of what are our values. So there is a huge confusion about what are our needs. And if we don't know how to individuate our needs, how can we help other people express them? So it's important that in the attention to the needs, we also comprehend the peaceful and clear expression of what our needs are. And we should give a good example to the children, helping them in the process of individuating clearly the needs and clearly expressing them. If everyone in the world was able to express clearly their needs after decoding them, we all would live in a better world. And also the care of other people's needs. We have to take care of other people's needs because there can't be happiness, real happiness, if someone else's needs are not satisfied. So, attention to our own needs, clear expression of our own needs, helping other people, especially children, to decode and clearly express their own needs. Fourth value, pleasure. As the American sociologist Riane Esler writes in her book, Pleasure is Sacred, I always teach to my students in training as priestesses and priests of Aphrodite and sacred sexuality that pleasure is a way, the preferential way of communication with the divine, in this case, goddess Aphrodite. Pleasure, especially sexual pleasure, is a prayer. Pleasure can nourish our soul, our body. So the quest for pleasure is sacred. Fifth value, valorization of differences. We don't need to be afraid of differences. Differences can help us expand our way of using the brain and understand that there is not just one truth and one way to look at things, to look at challenges that life presents us, but there are many, many ways, as there are many, many people around the various countries in the world. Sixth value, equity. When I speak about equity, I don't mean that everyone has to have the same amount of the same thing. Just refer equity to the attention to the needs. Maybe I can need for lunch, for example, pasta, and another person needs meat, and another person needs vegetables. Someone would need pasta as me, but less than me. They don't need as much pasta as me. Everyone is different. When I speak about equity, I speak about the value of people. Everyone has the same right as everyone else to see the needs met. Everyone has the same value. We see it in the sacred geometry of the circle, where everyone is precious at the same way. Seventh value, beauty and harmony that must be cultivated. As I said before, when I talk about beauty and harmony, I speak about the deep beauty, the real beauty, the beauty that expands the heart, the beauty as an antidote to the terrible things into the world, the beauty as Aphrodite's epithets indicate, the beauty that changes the hearts. So, in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, we research that experience that from aesthetic becomes ecstatic. The eighth value can be resumed in the diamond's path. A diamond, indeed, is a charcoal that never stopped believing in itself and went through incredible temperatures and pressure in order to become the diamond that it is. So it's fundamental to accept and walk consciously the diamond path in the Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, because we have an inner need, a fundamental human need to express and live and experience this path, as the psychologist James Hillman writes very, very preciously in his amazing book, Alchemic Psychology, which I suggest you to read warmly. In his book, he uses, as a psychologist, the language of alchemists, and he explains us very well that we need to forge our soul. This is a fundamental human need. But Aphrodite teaches us that we don't need to forge our soul into armies, but into jewels. Indeed, Her path is the path of the jewel, the path of the pearl, the path of the diamond. Indeed, Aphrodite's path can articulate into the diamond path, the jewel path, and the pearl path, according to the metaphor we want to use and the quality of the alchemic journey we are going through. Aphrodite, before the cooptation of her qualities by her husband Hephaestus, she is a goddess of metallurgy, but she doesn't forge armies, she forges jewels. Alchemic, in fact, is one of her epithets, and she helps us transform ourselves in our most precious jewel. But to become a jewel, to become a diamond, to become a pearl, to alchemize our wounds, we have to make an effort. As we make an effort, there is pleasure. And what does this mean for us? It means that pleasure is connected with limits and obstacles. There always needs to be a door to walk through, a distance between us and what we desire, because otherwise it's just a bulimia of desire. We just eat all our desires and we immediately satisfy them. There is zero distance nowadays between us and the desire, which is sacred to Aphrodite. We live in the Netflix and Amazon era. So every time we want to see a movie, we just click and here it is. Every time we want something, a book, whatever, we just click on the Amazon and here the next day we have everything at home. But that distance between us and what we desire is so sacred because walking that distance between us and what we desire nourishes the inner fire, the fire to move forward, the fire to express, manifest, and affirm ourselves in the world. If we don't allow ourselves to stay in the desire without immediately satisfying it, there will be zero pleasure. In fact, in the era of bulimia, of desire, the majority of people are so far from pleasure. I always say to my students that there is a difference in reaching the top of a mountain by climbing it or by going by cable car. I always say to my students that there is a huge difference on reaching the top of the mountain by climbing it or by cable car. The difference is in intensity and of kind of pleasure. Of course, we would feel the pleasure in both cases, but it is the process we live that changes the experience for us and the pleasure. So, how can I live an ecstatic life, a life of pleasure, beauty, and sacredness with Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, accepting the challenges of life in the consciousness that this is our diamond path, our jewel path, our pearl path. So I invite you to daily train yourself to see the challenges as opportunities. So every day, to answer the question of this episode, every day you can ask yourself, how can I see this particular challenge as an opportunity? Every challenge indeed is an initiation, is a death and a rebirth, a death to an old state and a rebirth to a new state. A lesson, there is a lesson in every experience we make. It's a change of state. It's the consciousness. We can find a gift into every experience. We can take out the most and the best of it. So, in the initiation, in seeing the challenges as opportunities, we move through that door of initiation. We move towards what we desire. We feel, we allow the fire of desire, and therefore we can get to the ecstatic experience by feeling the desire and its fire, by accepting to die and rebirth. Death indeed is so similar, so connected with orgasm. In many languages, the orgasm is called the little death, la petite mort, because both death and orgasm are the only moments in which the brain starts thinking and we experience the fusion, not confusion, with all that is. And through that, we can become more and more ourselves. So, the fundamental question I invite you to ask every day, apart from how can I change the challenge into an opportunity, is this one. write it on your journal. How can I transform myself to allow my blossoming and bringing value into the world? I repeat it. How can I transform myself to allow my personal blooming and bringing value into the world? But personal blooming, it's not someone else's project. This is why I always prefer to speak about personal blossoming or blooming and not personal growth, because blooming, it's about helping ourselves express the seed we are and blossom for the flower, unique flower that we are. No, it's not realizing someone else's project, but our own desire. So to do that, we have to ask ourselves who I am. Noscete ipsum, noti sauton, as there is written on Delphi's oracle. Know thyself. What do I desire? Because we know ourselves. Asking ourselves, what do I desire and how? How do I get there? What are the doors I have to go through? What are the initiations I have to overcome in order to burn of desire and to feel the sacredness of my living step by step, door by door, desire by desire, fire by fire? So write down these questions too on your journal. Who I am, what do I desire, how do I get there, what are the doors to get there, and the fundamental questions. How can I transform myself to allow my personal blooming and bring value into the world? Once you have established the doors answering to all those questions, you'll also have the keys to access your desire and your initiation and have an Aphroditic life. If you want to ground more into the Aphroditic tradition, you can download the Aphroditic daily routine by clicking on the link here in the description and write onto your journal the answer to those questions every day. I recommend it to you because every day we change. And please let me know how you find this practice, how you start living an Aphroditic life. And remember to claim your free gift, Aphroditic Daily Routine. It's completely free, completely for your benefit. I hope that this episode was useful for you. As always, the best way to support Aphrodisia Project is to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon in order to receive a notification every time that a new episode is born. Share this episode with the friends that you believe can benefit from these contents, and leave some stars or a feedback, and I will read it personally and will be happy to answer it. I wish you a wonderful rest of the week and give you the appointment with Aphrodisia next Thursday at 7 a.m. Italian time, or anytime you want to listen to it or watch it. Bye bye.